I think the person that's
Exactly.
more likely to be involved in a Ponzi scheme is Matthias.
Nah, Matthias is legit.
I mean,
Exactly. I'm legit. Thank you. Thank you. Finally, some support here.
hello, business people of the world. Today is Sunday, May 21st, 2017, and welcome to Business Tribulations, where we talk about business and economic events from around the world. Today, in news, we will discuss how they elected a new Korean president after the last one was impeached, the worldwide hack by WannaCry, markets reacting to American politics, Italian Atlantia who wants to buy Spanish Abertis, which are toll companies, Brazilian stock having problems after a new corruption crisis, and all of this you can find on the links in the description down below if you want to read something before the show starts. So let's begin with first news of the day. So new Korean president has been elected in South Korea. So his name is Moon Jae-in, and he was elected after the last president Park Geun-hye. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I think you
Uh,
got it right, yeah.
yeah, uh, she was involved in a very big corruption scandal from abuse of power. So now they've elected this new president, and who is actually prone on opening conversations with North Korea, which is pretty interesting because it can um, it can help kind of dissolve this fear for a new North Korean war with involving Japan and the U.S. and Russia and China. It would be a fucking mess, I think. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it would be a mess for sure, yeah.
Thank you, Adam, for this comment. But
So,
it's
like, I don't necessarily think that the previous president, the one who was in, like, they were trying to enrich this, like, specific person. Like, there was this guy from Samsung and this specific person, and then you had, like, the South Korean president who they were, like, yeah, they were, like, collaborating to make one person rich, which was a bit weird. And I think, like, the switch to Moon Jae-in it's not that important. Because South Korea has been doing pretty well in general, and I don't think that like switching the president is the same as in most countries. It doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I think I have to agree here with you. Well, the backstory is basically it's really quite shady what went down, and the former president actually was linked to a cult, and which was actually headed by one of her friends, and who had then these foundations where all this money then flowed into. But obviously, all the big companies still now deny that these donations were there to enrich anyone.
Mhm.
But so you're right,
Do you know how
arguing.
Samsung was part of this? Like Samsung's
So basically,
involvement?
the Samsung was one of the companies that was asked to donate money into these foundations in order that they get the how do you say get the support from the government to close a big deal.
Yeah.
So it is in the end somewhat corruption,
yeah,
But
but I think
to go back to the point what Adam made, in the end, South Korea is running pretty well. So the change in presidency does not necessarily. Would just bring everything back to a bit more normal day-to-day business, I would say. It's not like that game changing. It's just because that person had to be punished, they had to bring in a new president. That's it.
Yeah, that's the way
From
I see
that
it as
from
well.
from that point of view. But like obviously now speaking about the corruption scandal that preceded or like that initiated this impeachment is another topic.
yeah, but I think think it is important that we have a new president because, well, they have a new president because they we could see that there was the region was destabilized because of these problems with North Korea, and so this was generating a lot of fear, making the gold stocks going up and American currency going down because there was predictions for North Korean war and everything again, and
And that actually affected the USD.
yeah, it did. It did. The dollar went down and the gold standard went up. So, I mean, it did.
But actually, a war will benefit the United States because it's like indirect effect. The United States has the military protection over South Korea. If a war breaks out, that would be really good for the whole industry.
Well, it would be good for the American industry, but well, the American weapon
It would
industry.
be a shock. It would be a shock for South Korea, obviously, for their markets if there would be a war. But I don't necessarily see why there would be
It did
now a
affect.
shock for the U.S.
It did affect the American, not the American markets per se, but the American currency because it kind of went down in relation to other currencies, but the gold went up. So obviously people were putting their money into gold in case there was a huge nuclear war or whatever. I don't know. Probably it is a normal reaction to kind of fear for a war. I believe. I don't know if Adam knows more about this.
I think you're right when it comes to like people that are risk averse. When they fear something is going to happen, they put their money into gold. However, I'm not sure if I totally agree with you. Like on like the dip turn in USD, it might have happened like because of something else. But as like like a more stronger variable than, for example, the war between South Korea and North Korea, because as Matthias said, if there's a war happening, the USD is probably going to appreciate in value. That's what I think at least. But the currency exchange rates are always messy, and it's really hard to pinpoint what variable is influencing the dependent variable, which is in this case is the USD.
Well, any other comments, guys?
Well, I think from this perspective, no, from my side.
I think it's very interesting to see a conversation down on the comments down below for people that can kind of try to explain whether if it's because of this small crisis or because it's just happened as.
Okay, so let's just think about it like this. So if there was a war happening between South Korea and North Korea, what would be the outcome? Well, the outcome would be that South Korea would have protection by Japan and the US, right?
Yeah.
And the outcome is obvious. US basically has the power to almost take on the whole world by themselves. And North Korea is not an obstacle in this. The North Korea, they might have nuclear capabilities, able to reach like the mainland of the US. But I don't think they'll be able to do that. That's just a guess though. But I don't think that the retaliation of North Korea is gonna be enough to even affect the US economy like in a negative way.
Well, I think if California gets bombarded by a nuclear bomb.
But like now you're like really going down a lane. Just looking at the facts, this is highly improbable. Like, even Hawaii has so many defense points that they can shoot down any rockets that are coming in. Like, really, forget it that North Korea would ever be able to attack.
This is called like the AMS, or like anti-missile system.
Like really.
The laser missile defense system. Yeah, the one that has.
It's impossible, really.
Okay, so the only outcome is that the US wins. Like the people speculating in the market, they know this. So, and the stock market is based on what's going to happen in the future. So, like the only like it's only good for the US to go into, the US kind of wants to go to war with North Korea.
Exactly.
So
Look,
like it's only gonna help them, like in terms of, like appreciating the currency.
and guys, I think we have to look at a much more important point. Who are
Agreed.
the neighbors of North Korea? If North Korea gets defeated, then the real problem starts. What happens with all the North Korean citizens who are really low educated, who have been living under complete brainwash? What you going to do with these millions of people? Who's going to feed them? You understand, this is going to be a big humanitarian problems, and this obviously can cause big turmoil on the stock markets of the neighboring countries, maybe even more for South Korea, because they would never be able to support all these people flooding in.
I agree, but this is already a problem in North Korea. They're not being feeded
Exactly.
anyways, so
Exactly. But exactly. But if there would be a war, someone has to own up after, because North Korea then got defeated, and then there the problem starts. Who's gonna, fix the problem?
I think I can provide you with the answer. So in terms of like the geographical location of North Korea, it's the perfect location. And actually the US, South Korea, Japan, and China and Russia are gonna fight over this specific spot. Because the advantage of obtaining this geographical location outweighs the cost of feeding the population. This is why China is, for example, so defensive. No matter what North Korea does, they're kind of still protective over North Korea, because they realize that if North Korea would go under, then the US would move in very close to China, and China definitely doesn't want this. So should the regime in North Korea collapse, then that would mean that China would most likely move in and try to take over the population as soon as possible.
This
So
is actually a very fair
everybody
point.
wants that spot actually. So feeding the population is not a problem, because everyone is going to feed the population, or they're going to be a competition.
No, there are going to be competition for sure, and this makes perfect sense. But we have seen it again and again. I'm just saying, for example, North Africa, how many countries we have destroyed. It just, it will just be even bigger problem in North Korea. Even though the winner is going to win and take over, there
Obviously,
will be a gigantic
there would
problem.
be a very big problem in the sense of how everything is going to pan out in terms of the new geography and in terms of population and what's going to happen with the people. Obviously, I think that it would end up being like Berlin, that they would divide it between 4 countries, and in the end, probably the U.S., Korea, and Japan would have a part.
I don't think any country will accept this deal.
I don't think South Korea is going to accept it, because South Korea is going
Exactly.
to want the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they can't do
Exactly.
anything. Obviously, if the U.S. leads the negotiations on the part of the, let's say, America, Japan, and South Korea, I think it would end up being they would end up leading the negotiations and kind of like picking a part for them, for South Korea, like the part the closest to South Korea, and then the rest would be for China and Russia. And China would be interested only in the part where they can mine all the precious ore that they have been kind of selling and buying from North Korea up to now. That's why they're interested in having a good relationship with them, and kind of because they're the only mediators and the only people commercializing important goods from them, food and ore, obviously. So, and weapons.
I think the ore business in South or North Korea is worth $10 trillion. Or erase that, never mind. But I think it's something ridiculous. They're exporting to China mostly.
We're giving really big numbers there.
10 trillion is a bit too much.
Yeah, I think
likely.
it's a bit too much.
It's like the US debt in total.
Yeah.
Actually, the rare metal resources of North Korea has been valued in excess of 6 trillion USD. Just looked it up.
6 trillion.
Just to add that in there. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a pretty
So
juicy reserve.
yeah, so worldwide hack. So we've had 200,000 computers that have been affected by this ransomware, which they were asking about $300 or 276 euros. And after some time, the price would go up, and after some time, the files would be deleted or stolen. We don't know. And so this affected a lot of companies and the NHS. And one of the, here in Spain, some of the companies that were affected was a very big telecom company called Telefonica, and also BBVA, which is a very big bank as well. And they have released the numbers and said that there is around 6 million euros in losses for these companies in total, but only relating to the computers and everything and the information and the data lost. But they still don't know. They had to lock down the grids, and no work was being done. So obviously there was also another type of loss here involved. So we gotta know what was the full results of the losses. But in my opinion, how much can a company lose in one day? I don't know if you may be able to tell me, Matthias.
Well, I mean, like for example, for the NHS, the loss was gigantic because they had to stop all the business operations, so they had to postpone patients that needed surgery and everything, and like the whole UK got affected, so dozens of hospitals had to close.
Yeah.
I don't have a figure at hand at the moment, but the loss was substantial.
Yeah, it's it's really impossible to calculate.
And right now, even like they still don't know the severity of the damage that this whole thing has caused to them. They're still assessing if they even lost patient data, and if the virus has left any marks in the system that would steal even more information.
The companies or institutions in general uses a model that is called like the VAR model, value at risk model, to determine possible losses in the future. And this is the problem with systematic risk like this. There's a hacking, or there's like a war, or like this is impossible to determine like how much the loss is. And as Matthias said, it's going to be years, I think, even until they can accurately determine how much the loss has been.
I think, yeah. Obviously, the loss would involve trying to recuperate information. So obviously, spending resources on getting back this information, or getting back the work that hasn't been done, plus adding the newer work that has to be done. So there is a lot of lost time, and obviously for companies and organizations, time means money.
Yeah.
So it's
When I said years, by the way, I want to just emphasize on that,
yeah.
because it actually takes years for companies to determine losses like this due to opportunity costs. So it's really, really tough to exactly determine how much money they've lost. You can assess like the book value of the loss, but you cannot assess like the opportunity cost loss of what happened.
Yeah. So what can we? Well, obviously, the outcome of this would be that companies now are gonna be really aware of hackings. Um, I guess they haven't. The thing of going digital now is that nobody's gonna go in and rob a bank and steal the company's money, or steal valuable information. Now they're just gonna hack their computers, or DDoS their web pages if they sell things through their web pages. And so this has made companies increasingly aware of what is, what could happen to them. And also, seeing their weaknesses in terms of digital assets. So I've seen that a lot of companies nowadays are looking for people who are able to go with basic security whenever they're giving a computer, because everybody's giving a computer to work. So now they're assessing if people are capable of managing security on their own, on the individual level, which is the best way to stop things like this from happening. So what do you guys think?
So yeah, I think there's always a challenge when it comes to cyber security. It's always tough to keep up and stay one step ahead of all these hackers and all this malware.
Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, it is a challenge.
Radio
You know?
silence.
It is for sure a big challenge. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, how can you stay ahead is the other question. Like, how much, this is a big trade-off. How much money are you willing to invest, to protect your system? I mean,
Yeah, and even if you spend all this
what
money,
is viable, Yeah, even if you spend all this money, exactly, you can't be certain to 100%.
So it's a new
And I
cost.
think this is it's a needed cost, but like to what extent? And like my knowledge is not enough to even give you an answer. And I don't think many people, even in government, have the right answer for you, Alonso, in regards to how much money should be spent in which sector to protect what. I mean, we already know that all the intelligence agencies are spending millions or even billions into protecting what they have, all their intelligence, so.
and it's still getting hacked all the time. So.
And exactly, so.
So in conclusion, cybersecurity is a very important thing nowadays and something to take a look at. So if you know how to protect files, or if you don't, I think it's a relevant skill to learn. So, markets reacting to political, let's say, problems in the US. So, obviously, all this comes from Trump leaking important information and the possibility of him getting impeached becoming much higher. And so the markets have reacted negatively to this event. Um, I don't know. I don't know how how much it can affect politically the fact that Trump would get impeached, but in terms of economy, we've been talking about it before. It's that companies may feel like they are being they would lose money from because they rely so much on this new president, which has promised a national growth. So
yeah, so if there's a threat of Trump getting impeached, since Trump he's kind of been pretty good for the domestic market and for all the domestic companies. So, and this is obviously because he's trying to reduce the tax and he's trying to move like all the foreign subsidiaries back to the U.S. And if there's a threat of him getting impeached, then the domestic, like the S&P 500 and Dow Jones, will all react quite negatively because of this.
Yeah, we were talking about it also before, that the possibilities of him being impeached, and also what he's been managing to do in the for the U.S. Has he been following his program? And we've been seeing that he's actually been doing, he's managed to kind of decrease the taxes as well, and other things as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like he reduced the income tax. Instead of 7 brackets, he made now 3 tax brackets, which obviously reduced the tax for the super rich, and also there are groups within those former seven brackets that are benefiting from this reformulation of the tax brackets.
Yeah.
So this in the end, people are happy about.
I mean,
But
the very poor haven't been are not going to be losing. They're not going to be seeing any
exactly.
change, but the richer people are going to see advantages, and the much richer people are going to see even more advantages.
I mean, like, so before the highest tax percentage was 39.6%, I believe, and now it just got reduced to 35%.
Actually,
So,
people making from 112,000 to 191,000, the tax would be raised from 28 or 33 to 35. So that actually sucks for them.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, like mid class.
Yeah, middle class would be
Pays a bit.
affected, but lower medium class and very high class elites would actually benefit from this.
Sounds just like the people that voted for Trump, right?
Yeah, sounds just like them. But what do you guys think what do you guys think will happen? Will he be impeached in the end, or after the
I don't
leak?
really like personally. Again, too early to say because he just let this FBI chief investigator let him go. So look, it's really difficult to say. I mean,
You let him go.
He let
everything
him go.
is
He just
yeah.
didn't fire him. He just let him go. Fly, little bird, fly.
Well, I mean, like,
sorry.
even if he gets proven that he did it, I mean, we'll see. It's American politics. When did anyone get punished for what they do there,
Well, I mean, honestly, the poor Clinton guy, he got impeached for getting a blowjob. So we can obviously expect anything from American politics. Unfortunately, I think it's the most risk-prompt country in terms of economy and everything.
No, but this is just all they are Look, the problem about politics is you're trying to hide so many things, and this like also goes into ethics, white lies and what needs to be shown and what not.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just such just a gigantic picture.
Of course.
Like, wow.
People already forgot about the Comey thing because he's selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. It's obviously Americans have a very short attention span when it comes to politics. Unfortunately,
you can't just say you can't say even Americans. It's like the entire population, but it's just like how the news is. Every day we're fed so many headlines. How are you even humanly possible?
Yeah.
To like keep track and everything. Like, we will see what happens. In the end, I tell you one thing: if Trump is really powerful, he won't get impeached. And in the end, it's all down to the public pressure. If the public pressure is too strong, obviously he has to go. And we have seen this again and again. We can speak about it later with Brazil as well. If the public pressure gets too strong, it's adios, amigo.
Yeah. Well,
but before that, I mean, no problems at all. We've seen it in the election with Clinton, with her emails, no punishment at all. We have seen the same in France.
Yeah.
With Fillon, there's just no consequences until the people had enough.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, it's too early to say anything. But if you had to say anything, do you think he would be impeached? I mean, in my opinion, I think it's a time bomb. He's gonna do such a big fuck up that he will eventually be impeached. But I don't know what you guys think.
Negatory.
Negatory. Let's do again a vote like with the French election.
Yeah, so mine is just based on probability. Like, I think there's definitely a higher chance that he's going to stay in office until the end of his term, rather than him getting impeached. Like, the probability is just higher, so I'm just going to go with that.
Oh, okay. Well, and you, Matthias, we already know your input.
Yeah, exactly. I also think chance for impeachment lower
All
than
right. So
people
it's
might think.
2 against 1. So I guess he's not gonna get impeached. Well,
Oh no, this doesn't mean it won't happen. You know.
What we say is what's gonna happen. Okay.
I mean, Alonso, to be really fair, if you remember on last time the percentage of Macron's win, you were quite close.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were actually. You were the closest one. So.
Yeah.
I know. But yeah, no, but it's I guess obviously it's from probability. I would also agree with Adam in the sense that probability has.
So I just googled how many U.S. presidents have been impeached, and there's been 2 presidents in the history of the United States, and I don't know how many presidents there have been, like close to 100 or something like that. So, looking at the historical data, there's a 2% chance that Donald Trump is going to get impeached. And
yeah, but historically,
then I'm just going to go for...
Historically, this guy is completely out of the norm. We can agree on that.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree that he's been out of the norm. So let's throw that up to 20% then.
Yeah, 20% that he's going to be impeached. I think it's a good percentage.
Yeah.
We're talking about 25.
Very academic. Very academic prediction. Yeah.
Very empirical. Yes, absolutely. So, Italian Atlantia wants to buy Spanish Abertis. So, this has come from the Italian company Atlantia, which is a toll booth company, has bid $18 billion, which is 16.3 billion euros, for the Spanish toll booth company Abertis. So they're going to create obviously the world's biggest toll road operator, but it's we got to see if the negotiations succeed, because they have put a buy order on the stocks to gain the majority.
Also, they're not taking over, like they're not merging with Abertis.
No, they won't be merging.
Buying...
They'll be the biggest shareholder of the company.
Interesting. Okay, so like that seems. I don't know anything about Abertis. Like I've heard about them before, and I don't know anything about the Italian company. But so if they're planning to acquire over 50% of the stock, of all the stocks in Abertis, they're actually increasing the price of their competitor. So if they're not successful in acquiring Abertis, then they're actually making a loss, right?
Who is making a loss?
The Italian company, because they're in the same industry and they're pretty international companies. So if they try to acquire Abertis, then they're increasing the demand of the Abertis stock right now.
Yeah. Literally
right now.
I think they're
Abertis is gonna do better, and it's all about competition.
I think they are negotiated with a fixed price per share.
It still increases the share price.
Yeah, but it's so the bid is structured as a cash offer of 16.5 euros per Abertis share. So I guess they're gonna fix it to 17 euros, so that obviously while they're buying and while this whole thing is going on, the stock is obviously gonna go up, because after every if they're gonna buy so many stocks in one go, the price is gonna rocket. So everybody is now buying and making the price go up. So I don't know how this works.
Actually, I'm just reading the news article right now, but it says here that Atlantia shares fell 3.8% to close at 23.09 euros in Milan. Abertis gained 6.6%.
Yeah,
So it's a risky move.
yeah, obviously. It's it's interesting to see how I've seen a lot of these mergers. It always starts like this, you know, acquiring a large percentage of the company, and then obviously being as the largest shareholder, you can always order for the company merge. But I've seen a lot of these in Spain. Vodafone buying a lot of Spanish companies, and um, and then it always started like this, you know, buying the stocks, and obviously the stocks went up by a lot, unless uh, the other company was fighting this massive buy, then the stock would actually go down. I don't know. What would you predict would happen, Adam?
I don't think they're gonna go through with the purchase, but that is just based on what this analyst from Mirabaud is saying.
Yeah.
He thinks that Abertis is too expensive, and okay, I don't know anything about Atlantia. Do you know how international are they? Like how diversified are they? Because according to this analyst, they think that Atlantia wants to acquire Abertis just so that they can reduce the Italian domestic market risk.
I
And
think,
like
yeah,
you don't need to buy a competitor to reduce the domestic market risk.
yeah.
So I don't know, like there's something that we don't know, I think.
They're
There's
not a
something that we
direct.
don't understand.
Yeah, they're not a direct competitor. I think the Abertis is only operating in Spain, while Atlantia is only operating in Italy. So I guess they just want to buy Abertis and be able to have something to fall back on in Spain. And obviously, I would guess that they would get all of the most efficient managers in Abertis to also look into Italy, Atlantia's business model, I guess. Obviously,
Yeah. By the way, Abertis is pretty big in America.
Abertis is big in America as well.
Yeah, yeah.
They actually are big in several countries. So Italy, Spain, France, Brazil, Chile. So like they're actually rivals,
Hmm.
Atlantia and Abertis.
So,
But I would.
so it would be a good move for Atlantia to buy them, but Abertis,
And actually, I'm reading here, so an attempt initiated in April 2006 to acquire Atlantia. So actually, Abertis in
Yeah.
2006 tried to acquire Atlantia. So,
Now it's
it
the
seems
other way
like they're
around.
trying to acquire each other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
the
it
Italian
says that
government
they are.
stopped it. Yeah, it fell through due to Italian government opposition. This 2006 deal. I don't know
Mm.
why. I guess they would probably not be. They didn't probably want to have Abertis and Atlantia in their same country, being run by the same person, which would eventually cause the prices to go up a lot, maybe.
So you as a Spanish citizen, what do you think about this deal? Is it like a nightmare for it to go through?
I know that toll booth prices in Italy are really high, and in Spain they're, I guess, normal depending on the area, obviously. I wouldn't want them to go up so high because I go to the south quite a lot, so, and I have to pay like 7 euros, and I don't want to. Well, I mean, I have to pay around 20 euros in total to go to and
Yeah.
from the place I'm trying to go to in the south of Spain, but it would suck a lot if it got really, really expensive. Also, y Matthias, you've been involved in a company being merged into another company. Do you think this would work out for such a big company?
I mean, every merger is something new, so you have to always treat it as a single new project because every company, as you know, has a different culture. And so
Yeah,
obviously they just have to identify their risk points, what they have to pay attention to, and then action it out properly, and then a merger should be okay. But obviously, it's not just people. There can be many issues that could lead to a merger failure. And as we already identified in the beginning, overvaluing a company and buying at a too high price can also mean a financial obstacle for the acquiring company. So like there are many, many factors that play into a merger failure. But since since I don't have that much background knowledge on both of these companies, I mean, like, these are just the general points I could give you.
Yeah, it's very hard to pinpoint, what they're, because this is like game theory. Like we have no idea why they're making like an offer like this when they, in the end, I don't think Abertis is gonna agree, but that's just a guess. What do you guys think?
I don't think they'll agree either.
So okay,
Yeah.
so Atlantia is basically just raising the price of Abertis, their competitor.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe the deal will fall through, and then the price will go down again. Maybe it's a way to dump their stock prices. A tactic. And then buy them for much cheaper.
It could be all mind games, guys, in the end. This is just an announcement. This is just a public announcement. That's like me saying I want to buy...
By the way, Alonso, what you just said, that's illegal. Like, that's called insider trading. You cannot do that. Sorry, Matthias.
Yeah, but obviously
exactly.
nobody would ever know. It would just look like a... Yeah.
No, they would know. They would know. Like,
I mean, it would just look
tracked.
like a company trying to buy another one, and then they're dropping the deal, and then maybe the price may go down, or maybe the price may go up. Who knows? Obviously, I don't think Abertis would be involved in it directly into trying to dump the prices. I don't know. I don't know what would happen.
We'll see.
So, Brazilian stock has been taking a downfall after a new corruption crisis, a new corruption scandal has arisen. The new president of Brazil, whose name just escapes me, his name was...
Temer.
Temer, yeah. He's been involved in protecting a company that has been involved in some shady deals involving adulterized meat, and they've been selling adulterized meat to the Brazilian population, and he's been protecting them. And now this new thing has been uncovered after they have found a voice recording.
A phone call, basically.
Phone call of Tener and the company CEO of this company, which also escapes...
JBS.
Yeah, KBS.
JBS, between Batista and him, and he was acknowledging the fact that they were giving corruption payments to a gentleman to keep that person silent.
Yeah.
So basically, it's quite a big scandal. And fun fact as well, Temer was part of the Rousseff's government coalition. Like he was a vice president, and actually after Rousseff got impeached, he took over. So he was actually part of the whole corruption scandal already at first, and his popularity was already not really high. And now this new scandal, what can we say?
This is very
There's
bad.
a lot of impeachments going on.
Yeah.
It's very bad, we shouldn't be laughing, but like it's horrible. Since 2-3 years, they've replaced so many ministers already.
Yeah. No,
and there's still many going on. It's just
it's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
When I heard this news for the first time, I was like, what? More corruption? But it's what you were saying before, Matthias, that or Adam, I don't remember who said it, like developing countries are more prone to big corruption scandals like this. Also take into account Mexico, you were saying before, Matthias.
Yes, that's correct. And Adam, you can add into this, because I think this was your point with the developing countries, and I completely agree. It's just like we also have to like look at it from this perspective, like can corruption be stopped, and if yes, how?
Yeah,
And
yeah. We
if
talked
you
about
wanna
this
like,
before.
yeah,
So like, corruption is the second derivative of a developing country. So it's really hard to take measures against corruption in a developing country. Like you need to progress towards being a developed country and like being able to provide competitive salaries in order for corruption to decrease. So it's not an easy thing to deal with at all.
But
yeah,
yeah, no.
please.
What do you think? What do you think would be economically is there a way to see if there is corruption going on in terms of sort of financial statements and things like that, Adam?
Interesting question, and a bit vague.
Yeah, well,
So, okay, so like coming up with some sort of measurement or like quantify the amount of corruption in a country is I've never heard of anything like that before, but it's just fundamental like analysis, like what do we think, how much corruption is there in China or in Brazil or in Russia. Like people kind of have an idea of what's going on there based on like the general, how do you say, consensus among everyone. You know what I mean?
yeah. But in a sort of way, like for example, a company has been involved in a corruption scandal. Was there a way to see through their financial statements or their net growth or whatever, if we could have predicted this corruption scandal, this corruption undergoing this corruption that was on its way?
I mean, on a statement like this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like it's really difficult to identify. Obviously, in the statements, you can see what payments flowed from you to the outside, and obviously, if then the scandal comes out and you see just really weird payments in transfer of assets to a company X for no apparent reason, obviously this should ring some alarm bells. But you can pack these things so well. And sometimes there's money involved that isn't not it's not even declared on these statements.
So
you can pack these things so easily, and then we also have to start drawing a line. What is corruption? What is corruption? Is corruption inviting like officials to the best hotels, throwing parties for them, and all these things? You don't see this on a statement.
yeah.
These are just an expenditures, like for. I don't know the English word for it.
Yeah, no.
Is this corruption or not? Like, or like paying them a goddamn car or something, and like you can, whatever. It goes really.
So
it's difficult to see this.
Transparency wouldn't be a very good measure to stop corruption.
No, it is a very good measure, but then if you're speaking about a company that has a couple $1 billion of revenue, I mean, yeah, if a milli is more or less, it's then a bit more difficult.
So in terms of, I'm still a bit hung up on like the financial statement thing. So, and I've been thinking about like when you guys were talking, in terms of like the financial statements and how you can see corruption through that, there's very few ways, I think. The first one is like the insider trading, right? For example, you kind of give the knowledge to somebody else that we're gonna have a really bad year. You better short this company. That's like the classic insider trading. And then there's the other thing that both Matthias and Alonso, both of you guys mentioned that, and this has been like pretty big in China. You have companies that are coming here to visit, and they're throwing like fancy dinners and giving them a bunch of like hongbao, and like there's money under the table. Like that's corruption, right? And this is much harder to track. But when it comes to the financial statement, it all depends on like the sophistication of the market. and how sophisticated is like the country's SEC, like um, the security, I don't know, like it's like the Swedish Finansinspektionen. It's the government organ that is observing like the trading activity among in the domestic market. So in a country like Brazil, I'm not sure how sophisticated their SEC is, but it's their job to find corruption when it comes to insider trading and corruption in the financial statements and all that sort of stuff. And then the corruption when you have political leaders and uh, big CEOs coming to the country. That is another sort of corruption. So I don't know.
It's very complex. It's a very complex thing, and if someone ever manages to figure out a way to stop corruption, I guess, what do you think would happen if there was no corruption whatsoever? Because
I can give you like the Swiss markets, the Swedish markets, even the US markets. It's performing insider trading in, for example, the Swedish markets is not easy at all, because it's the domestic Finansinspektionen, like the government that is tracking all the trading activity. They're really good at what they're doing, and they would be able to tell if somebody, for example, if they are behaving suspiciously, but also like bribing like big CEO, like big like the CEO of big companies. That's not easy either. So I think just becoming a developed country is like, and this is kind of obvious, I know, but becoming a developed country is it's the only definite answer we have to this complicated question.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're completely right. But like if you look at measures that can be taken now, for example, in Brazil, one thing that becomes apparent is the public pressure really forces the governments to act now. So not until there is really unbearable pressure, there will be actions against corruption.
Yeah, I guess. That's actually right. Yeah, that is actually so right. So, okay, so yeah, I really want to talk more about that. So there is actually a short step. Sorry, let's go.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I think there's what you mentioned there is really good. So if there's this hate in the country because corruption has led us to where we are now, then that might, like, if you make the general, like the whole population absolutely hate corruption, then people are going to get much more scared of being corrupt, and that is going to decrease the corruption. So if you reach this inflation, like this point of like super hate towards corruption, then I think that might be a pretty good measurement, or a pretty good, like, how do you say, a pretty good way of avoiding further corruption.
But that
Exactly.
doesn't make sense. Everybody hates corruption, obviously. Everybody knows
like,
that. Everybody
you have
knows
to make
that.
the people understand that how it can negatively affect. I think a lot of people don't realize how corruption would negatively affect you as a normal citizen. It's just like...
Well, everybody knows that, obviously, in a sort of way they're stealing from you. But
Yeah, exactly.
I have an example to back up what Matthias just said. Look at China. Xi Jinping, he's loved by the people here because he's been fighting corruption super hard. He's the first president of China that has actually been actively, like, one of his, like, how do you say, he one of his when he first became president, that was like his main point: end corruption in China. And he's been very successful at it. And people here were absolutely hating corruption. And that's why he said that he was going to end corruption, because he knew that he would have the support of the people behind him. So they kind of reached... China has been developing so well, and they've had so much trouble with corruption in general. And when all the people really started to hate corruption, then suddenly you had a president that said, I'm going to end corruption, I have the people behind me. And maybe this is going to happen for Brazil as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because you see already the outrage that everyone goes on the streets and demonstrates and protests against it. Like, the thing is, everyone has to pull on the same string. because like in the end, the people who uncover the corruption is like the security, the SSC, they have to be on board as well. So like the whole motor has to work for that this can be changed.
Yeah, and also there's this there's actually this new TV show in China that is very popular. I'm not really sure about I think the Chinese name is like Renmin Mingyi. I think it means like in the name of the people or something like that. And this TV show is all about like you follow like this anti-corruption unit in terms of like money laundering and insider trading that are targeting the government in China. It's super popular right now in China.
Well,
Yeah.
we can see Adam looking into very interesting TV shows for us to watch. So if you guys want to watch, obviously, what's the name of the show, Adam? So you can recommend it to us.
Yeah, I think it's called Renmin Mingyi.
Renmin.
Mingyi.
Renmin BE.
Ming. Yeah, like
Yeah, we'll
Ren.
post the link, guys. Don't you worry.
And then, but I think you can also look for like in the name of the people or something like that.
Yeah.
Let me see. In the name of the people. Yeah. So just search in the name of the people.
Yeah, let's put the link in. Pass the link down, Adam, and I'll put it in the TV show in the description. So, thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Adam. Do you guys want to say something else?
I mean, well, thank you guys for listening. I think it's been a very good session. And just to maybe wrap up the corruption part, we can make corruption a bit more difficult to happen, but obviously people will always get smarter. And I don't think personally that corruption will ever disappear from the face of this earth. It's just not possible. But
It's part of human nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're able to take the money, you're probably gonna do it. And I think it actually takes a lot of strong will to not take money. I don't think I would do it, but then I'm not really sure if they're like telling me to, oh, we could do this and make a ton of money. And
So Alonso, if you had a
like-
salary of 100 euros and you were a police, you had a salary of 100 euros and your total expenditures of the month was 300 euros.
yeah,
And then you have the opportunity to, make some extra money on the side. Your
Well,
family is
incriminate
suffering
yourself.
and they're very hungry. Would you take the money?
well, it's a very, very radical way to do it, but obviously I would totally do it if my
Okay,
family was
Alonso is
suffering.
going to jail. No, but guys, like my point was of this statement, corruption just clearly shows that something is not going wrong. So a government should work towards eliminating all these negative factors to bring us to a state where corruption should and can be avoided. Because this is just, again, really a sign that something is not working well in society, in economy, and in the whole state. So I think if a government can work towards eliminating all these negative factors, corruption in the end would fall away. So that's my point to make.
Agreed.
Cool. I agree as well. I think, as you said as well, Adam, you brought up a very interesting point, is that if I'm making 100, but if I'm have to pay 300, then obviously there's gonna have to be corruption. And if this does happen quite a lot in police, in politics, in business, then maybe that's a problem, that they're not paying people enough to survive.
It is a problem.
Yeah.
It is a
Exactly.
problem. But
So
sometimes
this is correct, Alonso. Exactly what I said. So the public system is not paying enough the people so that they can live an adequate life, according to their education level and everything.
But
if you have a widespread problem of that, I don't want to make Mexico look bad, but Mexico would be a poster example for corruption. The people are just not making enough money for them to have a normal standard of life, or that's how it seems like.
Then the
that they
problem
accept
is that
the corruption payments.
what's a normal standard of life? Because If my normal
But this
standard
is
of
up to
life is being able to pay my wife some new tits, then
no, but
then
Alonso,
obviously
we have to be
this,
here reasonable. We have to
yeah,
be reasonable here. This is not my point. My point
yeah.
is you have education level X and your capability portfolio is Z. And this just gives you a certain bracket that you belong to. You
So
understand? And
you make
if
it
you're worth something, you work yourself up.
obviously.
Corruption is also a way to display some inequalities that are in a society, And it's
Obviously,
exactly this.
if you are working in a company and you think they're not paying you enough for what you should be paid, you're obviously going to leave. But unfortunately, you can't leave a country. If you're a policeman, you can't become a policeman in another country. You can either be a policeman or just go into private business. And I think a lot of them that have a lot of gain a lot of experience in the end become private investigators or I don't know something, probably bodyguards in the sense of policemen. But some others are probably more lazy. They're lazier in this sense, and they said, well, there's an easy way out, which is stealing money, or in business as well, and in politics, and so it's socially
Yes,
it's a very big problem, but
exactly.
then again also it's not only socially but also economically. So I guess there's a lot of variables and a lot of factors to take into account to be able
Yeah,
to stop corruption. And I
you're
think
completely right.
and we've probably covered like 10% of them, even though it's the topic we've spoken of the most.
Let me just add something, and it's what I'm saying. What I'm gonna say is not gonna be 100% true. It's not black and white, but I would more say corruption is the cause of, like, a bad economy, and corruption doesn't cause a bad economy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, just wanted to add that. But it's not 100% like that. But yeah, like just because they had like this corruption scandal thing in Brazil, like that didn't cause that was not the cause of the decrease in stock price. The decrease in stock price was just bad economic performance, and that was displayed through corruption.
so indirectly
I really want to highlight that.
so indirectly it was from corruption.
No, like what I'm saying is that bad economic performance is displayed through corruption, and the corruption caused a decrease in whatever the stock price or the currency of real.
Well, what are the conclusions then for this topic?
I mean, I think by wanting to do a conclusion, we came up with some really good points again, But like, yeah, as I wanted to say before, like it's actually the duty of the government to ensure that everything is set up as good as possible, that there shouldn't be any opportunity for corruption even to start. Obviously, there will always be a small percentage, or hopefully a small percentage, that will go down, let's say, the wrong path. But it shouldn't be on such a high level across all the sectors in a country. This just really shows something is really severely wrong and needs fixing. And we can also discuss about punishments. Maybe the punishments on corruptions are just too lax, for them to even be scared about it. Because every person who takes corruption, there is a trade-off you make in your head. Do I want to commit this crime? What is the risk? Do I want to get this 50 or 100,000 and then end up 1 year in jail? Okay, let's do it. So like, there's a lot of things to think about, and I mean, corruption has been with us since very, very long time, guys. So let's see how we'll go in the future.
So the main conclusion is don't be corrupt. Don't take money from strangers. You don't know where it's been.
No. Don't get caught. That's the conclusion.
Yeah, that's the conclusion. Don't get caught.
Always be smarter, you know. Just always be smarter. Stay ahead of the game. There will be always criminal people, you know. It's just the smartest survives. But guys, don't become criminals now, yeah?
No, please. So basically, just
No,
become a
please.
criminal and throw other criminals under the bus. Essentially.
Exactly.
That's
There
very
we go.
interesting.
Alonso's our next drug kingpin.
Yeah. Well, anyways, anything else to add, guys? No?
No, I think from my side it's okay. Adam?
I think Matthias summed it up very nicely.
Very well then. Very nice. So, this is all for today in economic news. Thanks for listening, and you will be able to read everything we talked about using the links in the description down below.
Yeah, it was very nice.
It was
What
an
a long
intense
session we
session.
had today. Yeah, holy cow.
Holy shit. What
I
was
think I walked like 1 kilometer in the house.
Yeah, I was.